Perhaps today, in the silence of your room or during a tiring day, you've asked yourself, am I living the way Jesus expects me to? It's not a question that can be answered quickly, nor with a simple yes or no. It's a question that sinks deep into your heart, stirs your memory, and brings to light choices you've made and those you haven't made. It's like a soft but steady light that illuminates corners you might prefer to keep in the shadows. And I know, to some this light may seem harsh, but in truth it's the gaze of a God who loves too much to let you lose yourself without realizing it. Judgment Day is not a distant tale kept to frighten the distracted. It is a reality that the Bible treats seriously, but also with tenderness for those who love Him. On that day, it will not be about earning points, nor about fulfilling a list of religious tasks. It will be about the truth of who you have become and what you have done with the life you have been given. It will be about what was imprinted on your spirit when no one else was around to see it. And don't think that God is concerned with appearances. He is not impressed by the brilliance of our performance, but by the consistency of our heart. Perhaps you carry deep scars from a lifetime of trying to do right. Maybe you helped people who never thanked you, forgave those who wouldn't change, persisted in praying when everyone around you had given up. And yet, you might wonder if it was enough. I want you to hear this carefully. God doesn't measure you by how much you tried to please everyone, but by how much you lived to please Him. That's the measure that truly counts. When Jesus speaks to you, He won't come as a cold, finger-pointing accuser. He will come as the righteous judge who knows every detail, the tear that fell on the pillow, the yes that cost you pride, the no that cost you a relationship. He knows the times when you were exhausted, but you continued out of love for Him. He knows the times when no one applauded, but you remained faithful. And that's why these 7 questions we'll reflect on today aren't just questions for the future. They're a mirror for the present. As you listen to me, don't rush to answer mentally. This isn't a test to get right. It's an invitation to align yourself. It's as if Christ Himself is calling you to walk with Him through memories, decisions, and promises. Let's walk through these questions together, with courage, with truth, but also with the peace of knowing that the one asking them is the same one who already gave His life for you. Because in the end, what He wants is not to condemn, but to guide, not to tear away your hope, but to purify it, not to weigh down your heart so that you feel small, but to free it so that you can live lightly before Him. Today we begin this journey, and as we progress, perhaps you will discover that some of these answers are already being written, not with words, but with every gesture, every choice, every renunciation that springs from a surrendered heart. What did you do with what I gave you? There's a question that spans eternity, and one day we'll all hear it from Jesus' mouth. What have you done with what I gave you? It's a simple question, but profound in its weight. It's not just about money or material possessions, but about everything He's placed in your hands. Time, gifts, opportunities, relationships, even the struggles that shaped your character. And for those who have spent their lives trying to be faithful, this question can bring a mixture of peace and uneasiness. Peace, because we know we use part of what we've received to serve and love. Unease, because we may realize we've buried certain opportunities out of fear, insecurity, or distraction. The parable of the talents, told in Matthew 25, is not a story to measure ability or compare results. It is, above all, a test of responsibility. The Lord entrusted different resources to each servant, but the expectation was the same: faithfulness in using what was entrusted. And here's a detail many overlook: neglecting something small can weigh more heavily than making a mistake in something big. Because before God, it's not about the size of the talent, but about obedience in caring for what He has given us. Perhaps you remember a time when God placed someone in your path and for some reason you missed the chance to bless them, or a gift you always knew you had but kept in a drawer, waiting for the right moment that never came. Or perhaps you used your gifts more to please others than to please God. The silent error lies in thinking that what we receive is only for our comfort, when in fact everything is for the kingdom. We're not talking here about overwhelm or living exhausted to prove something to God. He doesn't call us to a race of exhaustion, but to a journey of purpose. And this journey begins when we honestly look at what we have and ask, how can this serve eternity? Perhaps it's words that comfort, hands that serve, or even the patience to listen to someone in pain. Perhaps it's the accumulated experience of years of struggle which can now guide those just starting out. If you mentally, or even on paper, list your resources, skills, and connections, you'll realize there's more there than you imagine. And when we place these small and large resources in God's hands, He multiplies them in ways we can't foresee. Remember, He doesn't charge you for what He didn't give, but He does demand accountability for what He entrusted to you. This truth isn't meant to crush you, but to liberate you, because in the end, it doesn't matter whether you were given 5 talents or just 1. It matters whether you use them so others could see God's glory through your life, who you have become. There's something that weighs more than any list of accomplishments, who you became in the process. On Judgment Day, Jesus won't just remember what you did, but will reveal who you became. While doing it, many spend their entire lives tallying up deeds, accumulating good works, serving in various places, helping countless people. But before God, your resume isn't just what you've accomplished. It's the kind of heart you've built along the way. Character weighs more than a record of deeds. It's possible to spend years actively serving and still end up with a hardened heart. It's possible to help but harbor resentment. It's possible to preach love but act harshly when thwarted. And that's when we realize that even good deeds can become a veil, hiding untreated wounds. Jesus isn't just interested in your outward obedience, but in the inward transformation that obedience produces. God often allows situations that reveal who we truly are. An offensive word, an unexpected delay, an unfair criticism. In these moments, our reactions reveal more about our character than any sermon we preach or task we accomplish. The heart is measured not only by moments of glory, but by how we respond when no one is praising us. Perhaps, looking back, you'll see choices that cost you dearly, but that brought you closer to Christ. Perhaps you'll realize that even in times of silence and solitude, your faith matured, your love deepened, your patience strengthened, and this is precious to God. In heaven, your name will be remembered not for the positions you held, but for the heart you had. What matters is not just having done the right things, but having become someone who reflects the character of Jesus, because in the end, works will pass away, titles will disappear, but who you have become before God will remain forever. You loved as I loved. The day we stand before Christ, one of the most penetrating questions will be, have you loved as I have loved? It won't be about the number of people you said you loved, but about the quality and truth of that love. Many confuse love with tolerance, as if love were simply avoiding conflict or saying yes to maintain peace. But Jesus' love was never passive, never withholding. He didn't simply soothe wounds with gentle words. He healed them, even when it required confronting the truth. True love doesn't close its eyes to error. It sees it and acts. Sometimes it's easier to remain silent so as not to lose someone. But in the kingdom, silence in the face of sin can weigh as heavily as a lack of compassion. Jesus loved deeply, but also courageously. He embraced those who were broken, but he didn't cover the wound. He exposed it so it could be healed. That's why, before him, love will be measured not only by gentleness, but by the willingness to lead the other to the truth, even if it costs closeness or approval. Many generous hearts fall into a trap, loving more out of need than compassion. When what we call love is actually a fear of being alone, we end up keeping people by our side who distance us from God just to avoid feeling empty. But Christ's love is free and liberating. It doesn't bind anyone to error, nor does it cling to destructive relationships. The love Jesus expects from us is one that sustains, but also corrects, that welcomes, but also guides. Like a scalpel that cuts to remove what is sickening, not to hurt, but to save. At judgment, he won't ask how many people were satisfied with you, but how many were transformed by your love, even if, at the time, they didn't understand. Because loving as he loved is more than just feeling. It's deciding every day to act with the same dedication, courage, and truth he had. This is the love that will be remembered before the throne. You forgave as you were forgiven. Few things reveal our hearts before God as much as how we handle forgiveness. On Judgment Day, Jesus can look us in the eye and ask, "Have you forgiven as I have forgiven you?" And this question doesn't refer to a superficial lip service forgiveness, but to a genuine willingness to release someone from the emotional debt they owe us. Forgiving halfway is like leaving the door ajar, allowing hurt to keep creeping in. It's saying it's okay, while deep down we keep the person trapped in the past. The forgiveness that comes from God does not erase justice, but frees us from vengeance. He does not deny that the pain was real, but denies us the right to keep the chains tied to us. The cross is the greatest example of this. There, Jesus carried the weight of the sin of those who could never return what was taken from him. Yet, he released them. And that is why, for God, those who do not forgive reveal that they have not yet deeply understood the forgiveness they have received. Many live with heavy hearts, not because of the offense itself, but because they have chosen to become guardians of an emotional prison. And without realizing it, this prison also holds them captive. It's as if by holding the other captive to memory, we are locking ourselves in the same cell. In the trial, what will be at stake will not only be whether we were hurt, but what we did with those wounds. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is an act of obedience and trust. Obedience because God commands us to forgive, just as we have been forgiven. Trust because we surrender justice to him, knowing that no act of human vengeance can be as perfect as the Lord's judgment. It is giving up revenge, not because of a lack of memory, but because of a choice of faith. And when Jesus asks us about this, he won't be looking for a rehearsed answer, but a heart that has experienced the freedom to release deep hurts without denying the pain, but without making it an altar. Because, in the end, those who chain themselves to the past chain themselves to the same cell, and God calls us to live free. What you did when no one was looking. There comes a moment on Judgment Day when all artificial lights are dimmed, and only God's light remains. And it is in this light that he can ask, "What did you do when no one was looking?" Because before him, what we do in secret speaks louder than any public act. Integrity is not measured by applause, but by quiet faithfulness. When no one sees, no one recognizes, no one applauds, that is when character is truly revealed. The world teaches us to care about appearances, to maintain a good image, but the kingdom of God concerns itself with the truth hidden within. Jesus' words about praying in secret and giving in secret are not just counsel for humility, but a reminder that heaven records what earth ignores. In God's courtroom, cameras film in the dark. No act of kindness goes unnoticed, just as no hidden sin goes unnoticed. What we do in secret shapes our destiny more than we can imagine. Small concessions made inwardly, sins we keep hidden from others, choices we justify only to ourselves. All of these build or destroy our communion with God. On the other hand, acts of silent faithfulness strengthen deep roots, invisible to the human eye, but precious before the Lord. Each person's secret life is an altar. On this altar, we can offer sacrifices of praise that no one will see, or set up idols that no one will discover until the day we stand before Christ. And on that day, what has been hidden will be revealed, not to shame, but to show the truth about who we are. What we did when no one was looking will be the purest proof of what we truly believe. And if, throughout life, our secret actions reflect the same faith we profess in public, then we will have lived with integrity, alignment, and wholeness before God. Because in the end, the value of a life lies not only in what is seen, but in what is built in the invisible presence of the Lord. You recognized my voice. The day we stand before Christ, He may ask, "Did you recognize my voice?" And this question doesn't just refer to grand moments when God's direction seemed clear as thunder. It also refers to the whispers, the gentle impressions on our spirit, the quiet convictions He has planted in our hearts. Often, God's voice comes not with visible spectacles, but with the firmness of eternal principles that recur throughout life. Anxiety, fear, or an intense desire for something to work out can easily be mistaken for God's direction. Some people make decisions driven by their own impulses, convinced that it was the Spirit who spoke, when in fact they were following the echo of their own needs. But God's voice never contradicts God's character. He speaks according to His word, with the truth that remains the same yesterday, today, and forever. Ignoring God's voice doesn't just happen when we fail to hear something extraordinary. Often, we ignore His voice by silencing internal warnings that tell us to stop, wait, or take a less appealing path. It's possible to fail to recognize a miracle, but it's also possible to disregard the silent warning that would have saved us from falling. God's silence, when true, isn't confusion. It's guidance for us to wait in the right time. Discerning His voice requires intimacy, not haste. It is through constant fellowship with Him, through the Scriptures and sincere prayer, that we learn to differentiate between a passing thought and divine instruction. He is not a stranger who needs to introduce Himself every time. He is the shepherd whose voice the sheep know. And in judgment, what He will look for is not whether we heard something audible, but whether we lived attentively and obediently to the signs and principles we already knew to be His. Because recognizing God's voice is more than just capturing heavenly messages. It's responding with obedience, even when what He says is difficult for our will. This will be proof that our faith wasn't just belief, but a living relationship with the Lord. Did you live for yourself or for me? On Judgment Day, this may be the most revealing question of all. Did you live for yourself or for me? It's not just about whether you believed in God or attended church. It's about the hidden motivation behind your choices, your projects, your sacrifices. It's possible to don the cloak of a divine mission and deep down be serving your own ego. It's possible to perform righteous deeds that deep down are thrones erected for our own glory. The idolatry of my calling is subtle. It begins with a legitimate desire to serve, but gradually feeds on recognition, control, or approval. And without realizing it, we exchange the centrality of Christ for the comfort of being indispensable. Even just causes can become idols when they begin to occupy the place that belongs only to the Lord. In judgment, what will be before us is not the number of deeds, but to whom we truly dedicated each of them. Jesus made it clear, whoever wants to follow Him must deny themselves, take up their cross, and walk behind Him. This means renouncing the constant temptation to make everything revolve around us, The ego on the altar is the sacrifice that takes the longest to die. And this is a daily task, silencing vanity, emptying the need to be seen, allowing the name of Christ to shine brighter than our own. Perhaps as you look back on your journey, you recognize moments when you exhausted yourself to prove something to yourself or others, rather than to obey God. Perhaps you also recognize moments of pure surrender, when there was no audience or applause, and all that mattered was pleasing the Lord. These moments, often invisible to the world, are precious in heaven. Living for Christ means choosing to have every step, every word, every project have God's glory as its ultimate destination. It's not perfection, but purified intention. It's not the absence of flaws, but the constant decision to realign our hearts when they turn inward. The day we stand before Him, this question won't be a shame, but a revelation of who we truly dedicate the breath we've been given. After exploring each of these 7 questions, we realize that the judgment before Christ will not be a test to shame us, but an encounter to reveal the truth. He will not be looking for excuses, justifications, or lengthy explanations. He will be looking at the fruit of our lives, at what we have done with what we have received, at who we have become, at how we have loved, at the depth of forgiveness we offer, at the integrity of our secret lives, at the attention we have given to His voice, and at who we truly live for. Each question is like a mirror, but not a cold mirror. It's the reflection of a God who calls us by name, who knows our limitations and our struggles, but who also knows every step taken with sincerity. He saw the nights when prayer seemed to be reaching the ceiling. He saw the moments when obedience cost more than you thought you could bear. He saw when love was reciprocated with indifference. He saw when forgiveness was given without repentance on the other side. He saw when no one else did. Therefore, faced with these questions, we must not shrink in fear, but rise in hope. If any of these answers seem weak today, there is still time to align them. We still breathe, we still have days ahead, we can still adjust our course. The Lord not only asks, He also empowers us to respond faithfully. The Word says in Revelation 21:4 that He will wipe away every tear from our eyes. This means that the judgment will not only be a time of reckoning, but also of comfort for those who persevered. For those who lived with integrity, even in the midst of pain, there will be rest. For those who kept their faith, even when it seemed hopeless, there will be reward. Perhaps you've come this far feeling the weight of your failures or missed opportunities, but God's grace is precisely this. Today is still the day to live, so that when He asks these questions, we can answer with peace in our hearts. Not because we were perfect, but because we were faithful in walking with Him. And in the end, before the throne, hearing these words will be the greatest reward of all. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Come and share in the joy of your Lord. This is the answer every disciple of Christ longs to hear. May our lives from this day forward be shaped so that on that day we can receive it with tears of gratitude and a heart at rest. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone you know needs to hear these truths. Continue walking with the Word, keeping your heart sensitive to God's voice, and living in such a way that your responses to Him are filled with faithfulness and love. Come back here to feed on more reflections like this, because each day is a new opportunity to align your life with the eternal purpose the Lord has dreamed for you.